Hi, if you read the title, saw the thumbnail, and just came here to dislike the video or comment something nasty towards me, please at least give me the time of day to defend myself here. Because the implications of not addressing this topic properly could lead to so much more than just the banning of drawings you may find icky. This is an issue of the government and corporations controlling what you interact with and spend your money on, and dulling everything down until we are living in a boring, colorless dystopian nightmare devoid of free speech, with the guise of protecting the children to gain traction from the people, which in actuality snowballs into enabling and protecting actual pedophiles in the process. With the Texas SB 20 bill, the Online Safety Act from the UK, and the Kids Online Safety Act from America, along with payment processors like MasterCard bullying Steam to unlist games happening all close to the same time frame, the risk of freedom of speech and expression dying is at an all-time high. Now, if you're on the opposite side of me, I understand how hard it might be to try to see it from my perspective. That opening statement probably seems like an insane amount of hyperbole. So I appreciate you having an open mind to at least not click off this video immediately. So let's start breaking it down, beginning with the simple stuff regarding a specific law relating closest to what I'm familiar with before delving deeper into other recent laws inhibiting free speech and expression. Case 1, SB 20. Back in February of this year, Texas introduced a bill by the name of SB 20, or the Stopping AI-Generated Child Pornography Bill. While CP is in the description of the bill, that's far from everything included in that bill's description. To quote the bill directly, a person commits an offense if the person knowingly possesses, accesses with intent to view, or promotes obscene visual material containing a depiction that appears to be a child younger than 18 years of age, engaging in activities described by section 43.21. A1B. Hey, jumping in here on the next day because I wanted to clarify some more things. In section 43.21 A1B, obscene means material or a performance that depicts or describes patently offensive representations or depictions of ultimate sexual acts, normal or perverted, actual or simulated, including sexual intercourse, sodomy, and sexual bestiality, or patently offensive representation or descriptions of masturbating, excretory functions, sadism, masochism, lewd exhibitions of the genitals, the male or female genitals in a state of sexual simulation or arousal, covered male genitals in a discernibly turgid state, or device designed and marketed as useful primarily for stimulation of the human genital organs. Regardless of whether the depiction is an image of an actual child, a cartoon or animation, or an image created using artificial intelligence application or other computer software. So basically, from what I'm understanding, this bill could, one, only appear to affect hentai, like really, not even just regular hentai, really hardcore hentai, or anything like that. Like, you know, stuff that you would never want to be seen watching. Or two, because anime inherently features many characters who are under 18 or who appear to be under 18, depending on the Texas law, whoever is enforcing that law, the very fact that they are could be considered obscene in and of itself. So anything normal, even just regular, you know, ecchi scenes, could be considered obscene and could be considered illegal. If it is the latter, then that could include a lot, like tons of anime, a plethora of anime many people probably have in their top 10. But if it's the former, of course, that's a lot less, you know, a lot of hentai will be banned. Maybe some ecchi shows here and there. To me, any of this censorship bullshit, bad. So yes, the ban on AI-generated CP is being put into place. Cool. I'm all for pretty much any ban on AI-generated image or video generation. I don't see a benefit for that at all. But rather than this being the entire point of the bill, they also extended it to include anime, manga, cartoons, even video games would probably be under this law. I really do want to highlight that first part regarding visual depictions appearing to be a child, because that's the most bone-chilling line of this entire bill. Really, who gets to decide what appears to be 18 and what's not? Because that wording is stupidly vague and only opens up things for interpretation for whatever the Texas Senate and jury don't like. At least that's what it seems like. With this being put into effect, which I should note was passed and will be enacted on September 1st, fan favorites like Dawn to Dawn, Dress Up Darling, Sword Art Online, 100 Girlfriends, Made in Abyss, Kill la Kill, and even Gintama could potentially be deemed illegal in Texas if they decide to use option 2 from earlier. And along that same line of thinking, even battle shonen anime, which many people tout as the safe version of anime, stuff like Naruto, One Piece, Fairy Tail, My Hero Academia, and even Dragon Ball possess this kind of stuff. Not to mention shows where they explicitly make their characters over 18, like Chain Soldier. Who's to say the Texas government will look at someone like Himari, who is 19, and still ban it because they think she looks young? More than likely, any of the shows I mentioned won't be touched, But the problem is that they could be. They could be considered under this vague statement, at least from my understanding. I want to say I'm no lawyer, I'm not really into politics at all. I just see a law that scares me, so I want to talk about it. Because to me, at least, this seems like an incredibly slippery slope that no matter if you believe characters under 18 should be sexualized or not, should have never passed, or at least should have been refined more to be more specific. That's the basic gist of why anime fans like myself hate this censorship bullshit so much. Sure, they may start with literal lolly hentai, the extreme examples, right? But it never stops at just the extreme examples. After they're done looking through all the hentai, next up on their list would be the ecchi and fan service stuff. And then before you know it, watching One Piece is illegal because Shirahoshi has her tits out. Does that girl have a slightly small chest? Illegal. Does that girl have slightly large eyes? Illegal. Is that guy a little too short? Illegal. Is that girl's voice too high? Illegal. And I remind you all, lolly hentai, lolly fanservice, lolly ecchi is in no way CP and should never be considered such, because that in and of itself is dangerous thinking. Sure, Lolicon shit is weird. Anime is a weird fucking medium. We've got a plethora of Lolicon, Shotacon, incest, NCR, rent-a-girlfriend, and anything else you can think of under the sun. But guess what? At the end of the day, it's all just drawings that harm nobody. And as a society, we understood that, but as of late, people's moral high ground seems to be needing to be one-upped and one-upped and one-upped until we've got to the point where we're at now, where people have diluted the word pedophile while shouting it at anything anime over and over and over to make themselves look better, for a few online updates only to destroy and neuter that very word in the process. Whatever happened to acknowledging you don't like something and moving on? Hey, I'm cutting in again here on a different day because something else just came up. This is what I'm saying. So much of this stuff is all happening at the very same time, and it's very scary. A man at the Dublin airport planning to fly over to the US Comic-Con to work as a cashier was arrested with noted involvement by the US Homeland Security. He is accused of possessing anime images of child sexual abuse and having Category 3 child pornography anime images. This is exactly what I have been worried about. In Ireland, the government does not make that distinction. They officially treat anime images the same way they would actual CP. This is what the USA is helping with, yet they refuse to release the Epstein files? Chibi Reviews put it best. With this actually having officially happened now, it really does open up Pandora's box. If Ireland is throwing people in jail for having anime images, what's next? You have to wonder how this will affect services like Crunchyroll, Sentai Filmworks, Netflix, Hulu, anything that hosts any form of anime at all. Are they just going to start delisting anime en masse? It brings into question fiction in its entirety. How long until just the anime art style is banned in general? Once society starts considering and accepting drawings as actual living, breathing children is when we've truly entered hell. Think about it. Let's say all these people touting justice called the police on someone because this someone watched Monogatari. They weren't assaulting, talking to, or even looking at actual children, just an anime girl with a petite body type, because that's all this is. We can take this specific character and apply any number we want to her because she isn't real. The same exact character design can be 10 years old, just as she could be 20, 100, 1000, or even 1. If we start blending the line between fiction and reality, the police will have to sort through these fraudulent calls and reports, expending time and resources in hindering the authorities' capability of finding actual pedophiles and traffickers, thus protecting pedophiles while completely innocent people take the blow. With pedophile being tossed around so willy-nilly like a schoolyard insult at this point, at least on social media, this word is becoming less and less indicative and representative of the actual word, which should be viewed with the utmost disgust. But now everyone and their mother is apparently a pedo, because they find a cute character design attractive. Not to mention, adult women with petite builds are now being scrutinized for enabling anyone who finds them attractive, and the people who find them attractive are being labeled as pedophiles because of this dilution. Are you starting to see the downward spiral this could easily become? Regardless of whether you endorse the content or not, if there's no identifiable victim, then there's no crime being committed. Everything has to exist, or nothing can. Case 2. Collective shout forcing payment processors into bullying video game merchants like Steam and itch.io to remove NSFW content they don't like. On July 11th, Collective Shout, an Australian feminist movement, wrote an open letter to payment processors like PayPal, MasterCard, and Visa, requesting the cease of processing payments with Steam and itch.io because of their hosting of content containing fictional rape, incest, and child sexual abuse, stating it goes against their views. Keep in mind, a lot of this stuff isn't glorified or sexualized. It simply contains the subject matter because they're darker games. And cut to a couple weeks later, and every single NSFW was delisted off of itch to prevent payments of games being blocked across their entire platform. And this even included games that didn't necessarily align with what Collective Shout demanded because, to put it simply, they had no choice. Since itch is an open platform, they simply don't know about every game. They have a single-digit staff count, so they were backed into a corner, at least for the time being. In a much similar vein to the Texas law we just talked about, MasterCard also has a certain rule on their website, 5.12.7 to be exact, which states, a merchant must not submit to its acquirer, and a customer must not submit to the interchange system any transaction that is illegal or in the sole discretion of the corporation, may damage the goodwill of the corporation, or reflect negatively on the marks. The corporation considers any of the following activities to be in violation of this. And I want to specifically highlight Rule 2. The sale of a product or service, including an image which is patently offensive and lacks serious artistic value, such as, by way of example and not limitation, images of non-consensual sexual behavior, sexual exploitation of a minor, non-consensual mutilation of a person or body part, and bestiality, or any other material that the corporation deems unacceptable to sell in connection with a mark. Which, yeah, I guess apparently makes MasterCard the arbiter of serious artistic value. Great. Payment processors now judge if art is worthy to be sold to you. Not to mention how ridiculous the non-consensual mutilation of a person or body part is. That is literally so much, like a stupidly large amount of media. Your COD games, your Battlefield, your GTA, Game of Thrones, Star Wars, Doom, literally most horror movies and TV shows, including anime and games, probably have some kind of this mutilation. That, like, what? It's incredibly fucked up because that last line specifically as well. Just tagged on at the end there as a casual or any other material that the corporation deems unacceptable to sell. So on top of everything they listed, if someone high up at MasterCard deems they don't like something, even if it's the most completely wholesome thing ever, like maybe Non Non Beery or something, the Non Non Beery Blu-ray disc, for whatever reason they please, they can just completely revoke your right to purchase it, or fine the host $200,000 if they don't comply. Oh boy, this ain't good. I'm gonna quote this tweet from Pirate Nation on Twitter. MasterCard and Visa threatened to pull payment processing support from Steam, and now PayPal for most of the world removed payment support for Steam, ostensibly because of a few adult games. However, these companies still allow for payments to be processed for Roblox, a company which actively protects pedophiles on their platform and attacks people trying to catch them. Someone really needs to ask these companies whether processing payments for pedos is a good look for attracting potential investors, unless it was never really about protecting the kids at all. For another example, let's say MasterCard doesn't like certain LGBT views. That can easily lead to sexual themes being explored in a very positive manner, right? But that can somehow still be construed into something that MasterCard doesn't like, and could potentially result in it being censored. That includes, and I know this is a very minuscule detail in the actual game, but because it's part of the game, MasterCard could still target. My favorite video game ever, Celeste, also has a transgender main character. Madeline is transgender, which they never even really delve into. They just show a little cutscene at the very end of the game, and even that, I don't know if that would be okay. That's how ridiculous this law is, because it's so vague. Or not law, but this rule is. This is the crux of this whole thing. Even video games that feature this type of content, but absolutely do not glorify it, are being censored, thus dumbing down these art forms even further. Exhumed, a game that had already had press reviews out, 3,000 wishlists on Steam, and was looking to be the next horror hit, was removed from Steam with the reason being sexual content with depictions of real people, despite the developers' claims that it contained no uncensored nudity, sex acts, or pornography. It's supposed to make the player feel uncomfortable. I mean, it's a horror game after all. Payment processors are deciding for us what we should feel comfortable paying for and playing. it never stops at the extreme examples. It only took them 2 weeks to go past NSFW content in general and target horror. Thankfully, since the story has skyrocketed in popularity these last few weeks, the people have taken to bombarding payment processors with calls and emails, absolutely inundating and flooding their call centers, who've even come up with guides using scripts on how to reach different sects of departments of the call centers and customer service emails who continuously waste their time and increase the strain on these processors to eat up more and more of their resources. Continue forcing these payment processors into this corner. They will break. Case 3. The UK's Online Safety Act, which is, I'm sure you can tell by this point in the video, far from just that. Since we're talking about censorship, something that obviously needs to be brought up is governments and corporations deciding for us how we are supposed to use the internet, and censoring a wide array of the entire online space with the guise of children's safety. More and more laws have been popping up seemingly all at the same time, with a similar goal in mind. Which I guess at this point I haven't even addressed what this bill does, so let me get to that. In the UK, and soon to be in the US and other countries as well, they need to submit an ID, credit card, or facial scan. Yes, biometric data to even enter websites like Twitter. Since starting to work on this video 2 weeks ago, YouTube has now enacted an age verification system that uses AI to determine your age. So if this AI determines you're a kid, with, let's say you're watching Pokemon clips, or you're just really into cartoons, or hell, anime is probably also flagged in that cartoon kids category, then you'll have to submit your ID. But okay, let's say you actually are a kid who was already watching all this adult content beforehand. Would YouTube not just allow you to continue watching this adult content because it thinks you're an adult because you were watching adult content before? This AI seems incredibly vague and only open for interpretation, and some strange feeling in my brain is telling me that this ain't gonna protect the children. The worst part is this data you submit for the ID verification would rarely be deleted right away. If you're lucky, this information won't be sold off, but your ID and your credit card being in the cloud for any amount of time is terrifying. That right there is going to be a treasure trove for any hackers targeting your identity or just broad data leaks in general. Ironically, this law is driving kids down a path which is even more dangerous than if they just use the internet normally. It's revealing to them a new dark corner of the internet they otherwise wouldn't be privy to. Let's say a minor is looking to use a pornographic website, because let's be honest, that does happen, but is blocked by the ID check. So they continue going down the websites until they finally find one, all the way down at the bottom, maybe even on the next page, the next few pages. But the point is, they finally find one that is so unregulated that it doesn't even require the ID check. What do you think's on that website? Now they're looking at more hardcore content that is way more damaging to see than just regular porn on a far sketchier website with even more privacy and data at risk. With the internet becoming such a prevalent part of our lives, parents need to step in and do something, whether that be restricting kids' uses of smart devices, not allowing them to have smart devices in general, or even just regulating what they see and what they do on those smart devices regularly. So not only does this law put kids in even more danger than before, but this also gives companies the blanket safeguard they can use to just censor anything they don't like, with the excuse of it's to protect the kids. These laws, which enforce the requirement of IDs, will also have the companies who can't keep up with the insane amount of resources needed to enforce these IDs to fall further and further behind, and the big tech companies get rid of their competition with ease. Remember itch.io from earlier? It's just like that. These companies have to either comply or unlist anything that could possibly be considered harmful, which with the established vague wording forces/allows companies to just sterilize their entire platform until it's only squeaky clean. You know what else needs an ID check in the UK now? Spotify. That's not a joke. Spotify. And potentially down the road, Wikipedia, who is currently in a legal battle with the UK government. But of course, a lot of these sites would rather be safe than sorry, so they enable this ID check on sites that may not even need it, with the fear of being fined themselves. With this law now in full effect, a lot of people are taking to using VPNs to bypass the UK's regulations. Instead of these Trojan horse censorship laws, laws, something needs to be done with the education system. Whether that be a required online safety meeting with parent and teacher, or and something put into place to teach the kids how fiction doesn't affect reality, in ways that shooting people in video games does not make you really want to shoot people in real life, or like gooning to fictional characters who may be under 18 does not make you a sex offender. TLDR, censorship sucks, and don't enable it. I know this video was really scattershot, but I really wanted to get this off my chest and throw my 2 cents out there, because this is a topic I've been closely following and really zoned in on for a long time. And if you, like I said at the beginning of this video, were on the opposite side of me, or even if you still are, thank you for hearing me out and listening to my babbling here. On another note, if you guys are still interested in seeing more of me, and more of what I usually do and not talk politics and stuff, I regularly review Gintama arcs or recap seasonal anime, stuff like that. If you'd be interested, I would appreciate you checking me out, but if not, no prob. And with all that being said, like this video if you like it, dislike it if you dislike it, comment any thoughts you may have on this censorship situation, and don't forget to stay trash. Peace.